Question number 1. Studies have shown that employees are happier, healthier, and more productive than they were in an environment. These are all comparatives, and they should be in parallel structure. You're happier, healthier, more productive. So this looks correct as it is. I believe the answer is going to be A. Let's just check B. Healthy, that's not a comparative. It's not comparing, saying you're more than or healthier than somebody. That's healthier, but this one has they are healthier. That's changing the parallel structure, so that's not correct. D, healthier, being more? No, why add the word being in there? We want to stay consistent with parallel structure and our comparatives. A is the correct answer for number 1. Number 4, circadian rhythms, which are controlled by the body's biological clocks, influence body temperature, etc., etc. Okay, so the question here, doing a quick vertical scan, is it possessive with the apostrophes? And is it bodies plural or body singular? Or even clock singular potentially. So it's pretty clear it was clocks plural here, but how about body? If we look up interference with the body's singular apostrophe owning its circadian rhythms are controlled by the body. So it should be singular bodies clock. So it should be B-O-D Y apostrophe S. That eliminates B. And that also eliminates A. So C and D could possibly fit, but then it has to be plural clocks. And by the way, clocks is not possessive. So it's not apostrophe S. The correct answer is C for number 4. Number 5, quick vertical scan. This is going to be a verb question. Like any other health problems, these ailments can increase employee absenteeism, which in turn is costly for employers. So what are we looking at? It's plural, singular, plural, singular. Let's check our subject pronoun. So absenteeism, that's what my clause is going to refer to. So it's absenteeism that is costly. That's singular, which means is could be correct. Not have been, not are, they're plural. Is or is being. Is costly for employers. Is being costly? No, again, why would I include the being in there? That's not correct. It's A. It is costly for employers. Absenteeism is costly for employers. Number 9, looks like we have a transition word question, doing a quick vertical scan. Among the possibilities to reconfigure a building's lighting is the installation of full pane windows to allow the greatest degree of sunlight to reach office interiors. Thus, businesses can install light tubes. These are pipes placed in workplace roofs to capture and funnel sunlight down into a building's interior. Now, the second sentence here is not a cause and effect of the first sentence. So thus is incorrect. That's not right. Nevertheless, so among the possibilities to refigure the full pane windows, nevertheless, businesses can install light tubes. No, that's not a contrasting idea. The full light tubes is like an alternative to the full pane windows. So C is going to be the correct answer. Among the possibilities, one is full pane windows. Alternatively, the other is install light tubes. That's the correct relationship of ideas. Finally, it's not a question of result or finally temporal. No, that's not correct. Not chronological or sequential. Number 10. Okay, we've got they are, these are, those being, and which. This is the only one that's a relative pronoun. The other ones look like they're trying to set up independent clauses with subject, nouns, and verbs. So my hunch right away is probably C, but let's read it. Okay, so alternatively, businesses can install light tubes, so that's an independent clause. They can install light tubes, and I don't want an independent clause. These are pipes placed in workplace roofs to capture and funnel sunlight down. Well, that would be a comma splice. So comma splice, they are comma splice, those being comma splice. It would be which are. I want the which, the relative pronoun there, to set up a dependent clause after my first sentence, my main independent clause. That's the correct answer. 10 is C. Okay, 12. This is a pronoun. Looks like it's going to be emphatic or a reflexive pronoun issue here. And what's the correct one in number? Himself, their, oneself, and let's take a look. Subject versus reflexive. We've got a couple potential issues here. Let's read it. Just as travelers taking road trips today may need to take a break for food at a rest area along the way, settlers traversing the American West by train in the mid-1800s often found blank themselves in need of refreshment. So who's the pronoun referring to? What's the antecedent? It's settlers in this case. Often found the settlers were in need of refreshment. So themselves, they're plural settlers, so it's going to be themselves plural. Not himself or herself. With the or condition, that's still singular, so that's wrong. Their selves, no, their selves is not reflexive. That's not what it should be. And oneself is singular. The correct answer is A. The settlers traversing America often found themselves in need of refreshment. Number 14. Okay, we've got colons, semicolons, commas. This is going to be a independent clause combination run-on sentence problem. Let's take a look. Despite having worked for railroad companies, comma, Fred Harvey, an English-born entrepreneur, he decided, okay, that's a dependent clause. That we would not have a period there because before that's a dependent clause. So that can't be right. The period is wrong, which, by the way, means afterward we wouldn't have a semicolon either, because that's essentially the same as a period separating independent clauses. It's going to be a colon or a comma. Let's see what's going on. Fred Harvey, an English-born entrepreneur, we're taking away the he, be careful about that, decided, an English-born entrepreneur, so I think this is in a positive. Fred Harvey, comma, an English-born entrepreneur, comma, it's the same person. An English-born entrepreneur is Fred Harvey, so we want a comma there to separate the appositive. And I definitely don't want a colon. Decided to open his restaurant business to serve all customers. That's not elaborating on Fred Harvey, who's an English-born entrepreneur. That's not really telling us anything. It's not an example or an explanation. D is the correct answer for 14. 15. Okay, this looks like a word problem and some kind of pronoun problem, singular versus plural possessive, and plural verb was or were. They were, he was. So let's take a read here and see if we can figure what's going on. These Harvey houses, comma, which constituted the first restaurant chain in the United States. Okay, so notice this is a dependent parenthetical clause that we can pull out. So these Harvey houses, plural, not was, were. And then we'd have to have an agreement in noun agreement here from the pronoun there to the Harvey houses. So the Harvey houses, they had plural, they're unique, high standards. B is going to be correct. So the singular verb was wrong. It's wrong in A. And D is incorrect because the noun, the pronoun noun antecedent connection, it does not refer back to Harvey houses plural. There is the possessive pronoun that refers back to Harvey houses plural. 15, the correct answer is B. 19. So, but also, so okay, this looks like it's going to relate to a correlative conjunction. We're going to have the correlative conjunction not only, which should always be followed eventually from somewhere from the text with but also. Now the question can come up, do I put a comma before the but also or not? Well, again, that comes down to whether I restate the subject in that second clause, the second part, in which case I do need to separate independent clauses and therefore I'm probably using a comma, but one of the ways we combine independent clauses. But more often than not, we don't restate the subject in the second part, so there won't be a comma. So let's take a look and see what the case is here. Not only were such regulations meant to ensure that the efficiency of the business and the safety of the workers, but also helped to raise. So not only were they to do this, but also helped to raise people's generally low opinion. So note we have the comma here. There's no question. We must have the comma before the but, which means we have to have an independent clause here. So this would normally kind of be okay, except for the fact that the comma is there, so that's not correct. But also helping, no. There were, in such regulations, meant, I wouldn't use a participle here. Also helping, again, incorrect. But they also helped. Yes, we're in the past tense, and I do need the subject pronoun to make the second part an independent clause, because we do have the comma but given in this situation. So it should read, not only were such regulations meant to ensure the efficiency of the business and the safety of the workers, comma, but they also helped to raise people's generally low opinion of the restaurant industry. That would be correct. D is the correct answer for 19. So get used to the not only but also. It's correlative conjunction, one of 3 types of conjunctions we see on the exam. And again, often it doesn't have a comma between the but or before the but, unless that second clause is itself an independent clause. Okay. 21. Again, looks like we've got colons, commas, comma ands. This is going to be a combination of independent clause run-on question. Let's take a closer look. Living independently and demonstrating an intense work ethic. So living, this is a participle, the present participle, opening a participle clause, which is generally acts as an adjective, and it's going to describe the Harvey girls. So this is a dependent clause up front, and it should be a comma independent clause. The Harvey girls became known as a transformative force in the American West. So I want a comma, not a semicolon, partly because it's not an independent clause before. I do not want a colon. That's not a good use of a colon. There's no explanation after that. And I don't want a comma and. That would be the same thing as a semicolon. It's not an independent clause beforehand. It's dependent. It's dependent clause, comma, independent clause after that. D is the correct answer for 21. 25. Okay, this looks like a precise language question. While one MCP keeps apples tight and crisp for months, it also limits their scent production. Is there anything else that helps define tight, or whatever that word should be? Okay, it's not rotting, it's just ripening, and it's crisp. So the missing word here, tight, apples don't get tight. You know, your clothes might be tight around you, but not necessarily an apple. That doesn't really fit. Stiff, stiff is like a hard rod. That's not appropriate. Taut is possible, but again, if you aren't sure what taut means like the skin on your face can get taut. If you have plastic surgery, it maybe looks too taut. That's kind of like what we're talking about, but not exactly right. We simply want a firm apple. B is correct for 25. We want it crisp and firm, not soft and rotting. 26. Okay, this looks like it's going to be a possessive versus non-possessive pronoun issue, and singular versus plural if we do a quick vertical scan. So let's take a look up here. While M1MCP keeps apples tight and crisp for months, comma, it also limits their scent. So what's the pronoun antecedent relationship here? Whose scent? The apples. So the pronoun reference here is to 1 MCP, and that keeps apples tight and crisp for months. It also limits the apples scent. So we want to just be careful that we have the right pronoun reference. So our antecedent is apples, plural, and they do possess or own the scent. So it is going to be A, T-H-E-I-R. There is not possessive. IT' is not possessive, and it's singular, and ITS is possessive singular pronoun. So, but we don't want singular because the ones that have the scent are the apples, not the 1 MCP. 27. Okay, looks like we've got a pronoun, relative pronoun, demonstrative pronoun issue. Which type of pronoun is appropriate will we need here? So let's back up just a little bit. This may not be much of a problem with certain kinds of apples that are not naturally very fragrant, such as Granny Smith, but for apples that are prized for their fruity fragrance, such as Macintosh, this can be a problem with consumers that, okay, it's going to be consumers who, not that. It's not a thing. There is some question of whether you can use that after, referring to a person, and sometimes it's okay, but who is definitely the better answer. Consumers who will reject apples. It's not which, and it's not they. Correct answer for 27 is D. 28. Okay, looks like we've got a verb tense issue here, but some fruits do not respond as well to 1 MCP as others did. Okay, there'd have to be a reason to change the tense there, and some even respond adversely. So here we're still in present, so we didn't go to past tense. I wouldn't go to did. That's not right. Some do not respond to 1 MCP. So some fruits, this is the subject, it's plural, do not respond to 1 MCP as other fruits have. No, I wouldn't use have with do in the beginning. That wouldn't be parallel in structure. And will is changing tense to the future. Do is the correct answer. It should be do and do. Some fruits do not respond well to 1 MCP as others, that is other fruits, do. D or B is the correct answer for 28. 29. Okay, we've got a series of commas and a period and even a colon. Again, how do we combine this into the independent and dependent clauses, etc. in this case? Take Bartlett pears, comma, for instance, unless they are treated with exactly the right amount of 1 MCP at exactly the right time. So unless, that's a subordinating conjunction. So from here to here, we have a dependent clause. They will remain hard and green until they rot. So this is the independent clause. So what do we have here first before that? Take Bartlett pears, for instance. That's a complete thought. Take Bartlett pears, for instance. So if I put a comma between them, I think I would have a comma splice. I think I'd have independent clause, and this dependent-independent clause structure is another sort of complex sentence. That would be a comma splice. Take Bartlett pears, for instance, no comma before the for, and just have the comma after. Take Bartlett pears, for instance, comma, unless, again, that would still make that a comma splice, so that wouldn't work. Take Bartlett pears, period, for instance, unless they are treated with exactly the right amount of 1 MCP at exactly the right time. No, why would I separate the sentence there? Because the example includes and is the Bartlett pears. I think the best way to do this is B. Take Bartlett pears, comma, for instance. That's the cutoff of the first independent clause. And then I have a colon. And we're going to explain why I'm taking Bartlett pears, for instance. Unless they're treated with exactly the right chemical 1 MCP, they will remain hard and green until they rot. That's the answer. That's a good use of a colon explaining why we're taking Bartlett pairs, for instance. B will be the best answer for 29. Okay, 34. Period, semicolons, commas. Again, how do we combine clauses here to avoid run-ons or comma splices? Let's see what's going on. From Michelangelo's David to Vincent van Gogh's series of self-portraits to Grant Wood's iconic image of a farming couple in American Gothic. So we're taking kind of the painter and their work, the painter and their work, the painter and his work in American Gothic, and it's all from, this is a prepositional clause, a dependent clause, looks like up front. These works by human artists have favored representations of members of their own species. Okay, that's our independent clause. That completes the thought. So it should be a comma here and these, or possibly not even these actually, just works by a human artist have favored representations. So that's what I'm looking for. American Gothic, comma, works. American Gothic, comma, works. That looks like the correct answer, D. I wouldn't put a period before that because before this, it's a dependent clause, so I can't have a period. I can't have a semicolon because, again, for the same reason, it's a dependent clause there. And separating the two sentences, this is a prepositional phrase or clause before, from this point to this point. So again, it can't be A where I start with a new sentence. That's not right. D is the correct answer. It's dependent clause, comma, independent clause structure. 35. Okay. Long dash, semicolons. Again, how do I put this together? How do I structure and punctuate the independent dependent clauses and phrases? Indeed, when we think about animals depicted in well-known works of art, so far we've got a dependent clause with a subordinating conjunction up to here. The image of dogs playing poker, this is our main clause, this is our independent clause. Dogs playing poker, the image of dogs playing poker, and we're going to have a verb related to it. But we have a long dash. So it looks like we're setting up popularized in a series of painting by American artist Coolidge. Maybe, okay, I won't open with a long dash and close with a comma. So that's not going to be the right answer, A. I'm going to open with a long dash and close with a long dash. I think it's going to be B. Assuming this is a separate parenthetical. So the image of dogs playing poker, popularized in a series of paintings by American artist C.M. Coolidge. We could pull that out entirely. So it would read, the image of dogs playing poker may be the first and only one that comes to mind. That is correct. This independent clause is parenthetical in the middle of the main clause. So I need to use long dashes on both sides. Forget the idea of the semicolon or no punctuation at all. That is not what's going on. Okay, 36. We have an issue of verbs, looks like. So I've got a perfect tense, participle, simple, present, singular, and plural. Okay, so usually the perfect and the participle or the progressive tense are not right. It's going to come down to singular versus plural and how we conjugate that. So let's see what's going on here just to confirm. Yes, some of the earliest known works of art, including painting and drawings tens of thousands of years old, found in cave walls in Spain and France. So this is dependent. I can pull this out. Portrays animals. So I have to skip before the dependent clause to find out exactly what the subject is. Yet some of the earliest known works of art. So what's portraying animals? The art that comes before this dependent clause, from including to France, that participle clause. So yet some of the earliest known works of art portray, well, actually, I take that back. It's not art, it's works of art is, again, just a prepositional phrase right there. Works, the earliest known works is our subject noun. That's the subject noun. So that is plural. So it would be portray, singular, without the S, animals. So let's read that again. Some of the earliest known works. Portrays animals? No, works portray animals. Portraying animals, I don't want a participle. I need something that's finite that I can punctuate. Has portrayed animals? No, I don't want to change the tense to a perfect tense. Let me just double check that. I'm going to have to correct myself one more time. I think I need to go back a little further to get the correct subject. The subject noun here is actually not works, because that's part of the of preposition as well. I have to go back to some. Some is the correct pronoun. Now the answer is still the same because works and some are both plural. So we did conjugate it correctly for the answer. But I was mistaken. I had to go back even further for the correct subject noun. So notice you might have to check three different choices in this case. 38. Okay, again, we've got a question of the correct verb tense. So for centuries, cats have guarded this famous museum, ridding it. Okay, so this is an independent clause. Then I have comma, dependent clause, ridding the mice, rats, and other rodents that could damage the art, comma. So a dependent clause in between there. Not to mention scared off visitors. Okay. So what's going on here? Is it scared off, not to mention scared off visitors, scaring off visitors, scare off visitors, have scared off visitors? So what's this referring to? For centuries, cats have guarded, and then skip over the dependent clause, not to mention, cats have guarded, not to mention scared off visitors. I don't think so. This is a little tricky one. So I don't think I want to do that. For centuries, cats have guarded, not to mention scared off visitors, with the rest in between. Could I pull it out? This famous museum. No, they guarded this famous, I'd have to say, for centuries, the cats have guarded this famous museum, not to mention scared off visitors. Now, that's a little odd. That's not right. So I don't think it's A. Have scared off. It's for centuries, cats have guarded this famous museum, not to mention have scared off. No, that's not right. I don't need it to be a perfect tense. So it's scare, scaring. Present. Centuries, cats have guarded this famous museum, not to mention scared off. Oh, that's definitely not right because it doesn't go with that. I think it might not even go with that. I might be misreading this one. For centuries, cats have guarded this famous museum, ridding it of mice, rats, and other rodents that could damage the art, not to mention scare off. So, okay, would the cats scare off the visitors? Because I was assuming it was the cats scaring off the visitors. And I think it's the mice, the rats, and the rodents that scare off the visitors. So the mice, the rats, and other rodents that could damage the art are the ones that scare off the visitors. So I need to set up a parallel structure between they could damage the art, not to mention scare off. Damage, simple present tense, scare off the visitors, simple present tense. That's the correct connection. A little tricky because at first I thought it was the cat scaring off, but it's actually the rats, the rodents, and the mice scaring off. And I need to connect a parallel structure there with that idea. Probably should have picked up that earlier. 40. These cats are so cherished by the museum that officials recently decreed original paintings to be made of 6 of them. Okay, so, all right, this is a precise language. Do I decree a painting to be done? No, I decree a law. I don't force a painting. I could license a painting, I guess, but that's not really what's happening. They're commissioning a painting. In other words, they had paintings made of 6 of these cats because they're so famous or cherished. Commissioned, B is the right answer for 40. 41. The person chosen for this task, comma, digital artist, comma, Elder Zakharov, painted the cats in the style traditionally used by portrait artists. Okay, so we do have what's definitely going to be in a positive in here. Digital artist, Elder Zakharov. Okay, We have his profession, then his name. So it's essential we identify him by name. We should not separate Elder Zakharov with commas. So no, I don't want that comma. That comma between digital artist and Zakharov should not be there. That's wrong. Okay. And by the way, it's a little confusing potentially because this person chosen for this task, this looks like it's setting up a parenthetical. So I want digital artist Elder Zakharov all as one to end the parenthetical. So this person chosen for this task, parenthetically who it is, painted the cats in the style traditionally. That's the main independent clause. So I think I want comma after task, no commas until after Zakharov, comma after task, digital artist Elder Zakharov, comma. That looks correct, D. I don't want to eliminate the comma before the task because the whole thing, the whole name and profession is being set off. And I don't want that comma in between again because, you know, the name is essential or restrictive and should not be separated by commas as part of the appositive. So D is the correct answer for 41. A lot of commas going on there. I've got a couple things happening potentially, so that might confuse students.